Wine Society, clear my schedule because these guys put on some amazing tastings. And when Walter called me up and asked me if I would put on a tasting here at the store for the group, I was honored, absolutely. Like I said, I've been to several of these tastings throughout the course of the years. This group has been meeting for 30 plus years now, probably the oldest group in South Florida. Well, the guys are a little old, but I mean, the oldest group in terms of the group. Some younger people coming online in this group now, several people from our Brown Bag group now members. And, I thought the theme was great. Italian wines. I'm always into doing something Italian. So I started looking through the store to see what I could put together for Walter. And, I thought it would be fun to show 3 different producers' wines, 4 vintages, the same vintages of those wines. So this is what we did. And, if you're going to ask me for my suggestion, I'm going to come up with the wines that I like to drink first. And, some of the greatest producers in Italy. We have multiple vintages of their wines on the shelf, and all 3 of these producers, we still have all these wines to sell. Oh, I'm sorry, except for the 95 vintage of Cantalicchio da Sopra, the very first wine. Very small winery. They produce about 10,000 bottles of wine here, which is less than 1,000 cases total. That's Rosso and Brunello, a very classic producer in Brunello. Started in 1962. Primo Pacenti, a very small man, but very large in terms of his personality, and just makes some classic Brunello, some of the greatest wine. I buy this wine every year without even tasting it. It is always fantastic. I'll never forget the dinner we did with his son, Francesco, and we had him at Mancini's restaurant, 10 vintages, and the young lad was only 20 years old, and he introduced himself and told his age. I said, man, which 21's a drinking age here in the United States. You may want to tell people you're 21, especially when you have 10 different glasses in front of you. But anyways, a great time was had by all these wines were fantastic. The 95 started out a little bit on the earthy side. Several people thought this wine was corked. But, the secret with a corky wine is it gets worse as it opens up. This wine just opened up, and I opened up all the wines, decanted them, cleaned out the bottle, poured them back in the bottle to start them opening up at around 4 o'clock, and this wine still needed more time. 95, a classic vintage in Tuscany. If you look at the Italian wine press, 5 stars from the Gambaro Rosso. Everybody in this country loved 97, but try the 95s versus the 97s together today. I don't have any 97s on the shelf because the press raved about this vintage, but the 95 vintage, you can still find wines. I think they're drinking better today. Like I said, a more classic style vintage. This wine showing those earthy tones, a little old saddle leather, some dried cherry fruit showing through that earthy notes, and a little mushroomy, and a little bit of that black tar also you get from Brunello. Really smooth and fine on the tongue. That's what happens to Brunello when it gets mature, is that nice fine velvety tannins on there. The 99 vintage, Cantalicchio da Sopra. This is a vintage that was not very highly regarded at first, but really is coming on strong now. Some of that beef stew and animal kind of aromas showing through that fresh plowed earth dark spices. Very classic Brunello bouquet here. Chunky on the tongue still. This wine still got a ways to go. Some firm tannins. Really nice mineral component. Nice amount of fruit here still. 99, a vintage that's going to last for a while. All right, 2004. This vintage was not very showy this evening. Several people like the 2005s better. Hello? Well, 2005, a very forward and showy vintage. 2004, still very tightly wound here, but some red cherry and strawberry fruit showing. Nice concentration, porcini truffle-like notes, and a solid core of fruit on the palate, and those firm tannins really making things a little bit impenetrable right now, this wine, and just needs a little bit of time, but most excellent juice. The 2005... one of the best young drinking vintages to come out from Montalcino. This is why Mother Nature gives us vintages like 2005, so we can hold on to our 2004s. Gives us something to drink while we wait. Really nice red strawberry and plum kind of fruit, black tar, allspice. Really lovely nuanced bouquet here. Soft and elegant on the palate. Still has some tannins here, but, lighter in the acid range also. Just a lot more pleasing right now. The second producer, Ipira Kiraboshki's very good friend, and, her brothers ran Borgogna Winery for years. Her father wanted her to marry off and have children like all great most Italian men do. And, she would have none of that. She wanted to make her own wine. And in 1993, she changed the regime here, the barrels, and, after she had taken over, she waited a couple years before she did some dramatic things, but, she wanted to do things her way, and, small barrique, and not a lot of oak contact, but you get this lovely perfume from the oak. And some people argue Nebbiolo already has this perfume, and you don't need anything. It's too aggressive, but these wines, some of my favorite wines. The 95, a very classic wine. Dried herbs, mints, fresh earth kind of dominating the nose now. Some of that red cherry fruit still showing through. Really pronounced earthy aromas here. But this wine, really classic and really nice and soft on the palate, even though it's still young. Still has wonderful freshness, but drinking at or near its peak. And as most of all the 95s were in this tasting, the 99 showing the classic structure of this vintage. This wine is killer. One of my favorite wines. Red licorice, exotic oriental spice, dried flowers, really complex bouquet of black truffle, camphor-like aromas lifting from the glass, really thick on the tongue, and you can tell this wine just still has decades to go. Lovely velvety texture, but still has firm tannins, echoing that spice from the nose through the finish. Outstanding juice. The 2004, again, 2004, a better vintage than 2005 if you look at the numbers. But if you taste the wines, you're going to like 2005 better right now because 2005, much more appealing. This 2004 also very tightly wound. A lot of tannin showing here. Some of the red cherry liqueur showing through that, though. It's a pretty floral nuance. You can just tell this wine with a firm underbelly of acidity it's got is going to be a blockbuster 10 years from now. Hold on to it. 2005, really lovely, sweet, fruity cherry on the nose with some rose petals, some truffle, really classic Barolo bouquet, really pretty stuff, opening up in just a few minutes, soft and luscious on the palate, a little bit of drying tannin on the finish. After all, it is still young Barolo, but outstanding, the 2005 Puretta Barolo to drink right now, this Canubi wine. All right, the Fontoti Flaccinello up next. Fontoti, we just reviewed some of their wines and what I drank yesterday. Giovanni Manetti, one of the top producers in Tuscany, very passionate man of producing the very best wine. This is his best expression of Sangiovese from the property. Until 2003, it was a single vineyard wine, and since 2003 now, it's just become a blend of the top vineyard sites on the property. And the 95 vintage, again, a classic vintage for Tuscany, one of the best to drink today. A nice hand of fresh earth and barnyard-like aromas showing here, some smoky notes, a good bit of red cherry, wild strawberry fruit there, really pretty stuff on the palate, smooth and silky, and really lovely nuance to the finish here on this wine. Still should be good for another 10 years, but these 95s, again, folks, drinking at or near their peak right now. 99, very rustic, this wine. Some dried meaty notes, wild strawberry, dark cherry fruit, notes of dark earth, black spices, really complex bouquet, some porcini mushroom, and fresh herbs here. This wine still rather quite large, and tannins starting to mellow a bit, but, some lovely licorice spice showing on the finish. Excellent freshness, dark cocoa, damp earth. Really long finish here. This wine's got a ways to go. 99, a classic vintage for Tuscany. 2004, once again, a bit tightly wound, this 2004, but showing all the signs of a great wine. Lovely concentration and depth. Just a long, resonating finish in this wine, and huge. Need some time, but killer stuff, the 2004 Flaccinello. If you want to own some of this wine, it is still available, like I said, like everything else, except for the 95 Canalica di Sopra. On this offering, the 2005 showing lovely forward, soft nature of this vintage, some cherry and plum fruit, porcini, a little mocha, licorice spice, really smooth red berry fruit showing on the tongue, round tannins, very accessible, but still, has some structure. This wine will age quite a bit longer. And then, one of the great surprises of the night for me, the 1998 Felsina Vinsanto. Vinsanto, the wine of saints, and one of my favorite dessert wines. Remember, we got a great deal on this one. We sold it for like $30 a bottle. A bottle normally costs double that, and it's gone. And I don't have any to drink myself, but luckily, our customers bring the bottles back to us as this 98 came back, and having some lovely kind of date and fig fruit on the nose, and really some nice caramel notes in that as well, some honey on the finish, and lovely freshness. Even though these wines are sweet, they have a nice nutty character to them. A classic dessert you'd have with Vinsanto is biscotti. This wine made with 100% Sangiovese, so a little darker color, but fantastic balance, lovely richness. The Felsina Vinsanto, absolutely outstanding stuff. That's what I had to drink with the Hollywood Wine Society, folks. I'm your host, Andrew Lampasoni, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying remember, always drink the good stuff first.